Welcome back to NRP, guys. In today's video, we're going to be talking about this F87 M2 and if it's still a good buy in 2023. Now, this specific car is an OG M2, which means it comes with the N55 engine. They obviously do make the M2 competition, which comes with an S55, but in today's video, we're just going to be talking about this one specifically because it is under 40K for the most part, depending on the mileage and condition. Some of them are a little bit over 40K, but for the most part, these cars are under 40K. So with the G87 M2 now basically out, the prices of these cars could plummet or they could rise. So we're gonna be talking about if this is worth buying today and how much you get for $40,000. So this specific M2 is actually wrapped in Ruby Star Red, which basically comes on Porsches. I think it looks fantastic. Let me know down below what you guys think of the color. I also think the white TE set it off. I think it looks awesome. I'm actually not sure what he's lowered on. One sec. This one's actually lowered on H&R lowering springs. It also has a GTS hood, which looks amazing, along with some carbon fiber goodies such as the trunk spoiler and the diffuser. It also has a dine-in exhaust, but for the most part, it is a bone stock car aside from the charge pipe, but overall, pretty bone stock car. Now, getting into the M2, the interior is like really nice. It's a nice place to be in. You know, you are spending close to 40K for one of these. It's honestly nice. You know, you have a nice infotainment system. The steering wheel is nice, even though this one is upgraded / modified. It's not the stock steering wheel. But overall, the seating positioning is nice. Seems pretty roomy. It doesn't seem too small in here, but it also doesn't feel like an S-Class. It also has Harman Kardon speakers, which is nice. And the infotainment system, obviously we all know and love iDrive. It's great. So this one is a 2016 model year, which means it does not have the CarPlay. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but if you can get one of these with CarPlay as well, it's just a much better car to be in and spend and drive every day because it's pretty comfortable too. The clutch doesn't feel too heavy. The shifting also, this one has an upgraded shifter. I believe this is Auto Solutions. It is very nice. The seats are pretty comfortable too, not bad at all. The rear looks like it has a pretty good leg room for someone if they ever need to sit in the back in case of an emergency, not at a constant everyday thing. But overall, it's a pretty nice car to be in. So in stock form, an N55 M2 actually makes about 360 horsepower, which is more than enough power for a car of this size and also weight. These things weigh a little less than 3,300 pounds, which is relatively light, not crazy light, but it's pretty light. So if you look at the power and weight ratio, it's actually a very quick, nice car to have. And you still have all the creature comforts, like I mentioned, like cruise control, Apple CarPlay, good gas mileage, heated seats, Harman Kardon stereo. Not to mention the fact that these cars are so good looking. You know, a lot of people like to say like it's not worth it over the 235 because it's the same motor. Well, one, you don't get the DCT. I know this one's a manual, but if you were to opt for an automatic, you get a dual clutch transmission in it. And also you don't get the flared fenders. You do not get the suspension that this car comes with. And you also miss out on the little hints of M in the interior, such as like the gray cluster, you know, the stitching. It's just a little different, but it's definitely nicer. Now, obviously, it's no M2 competition. I'm sure those cars are absolutely wicked to drive because there's so much power and the same body. But for some people, they actually hate the sound of the S55 so much they would rather have this because an N55 is still a very torquey car. You can get the rear end loose on one of these very easily, and it's a lot of fun. So around like the 35 to 40-ish K range, you get a bunch of power, you get good power to weight ratio, you get a good looking car, you get flared fenders, you get nice brakes, you get M suspension, you get a great sounding car, you get a 6-speed manual, and you get a ton of creature comforts. And the biggest thing for us car enthusiasts, aftermarket support. There is so much aftermarket support for these cars, it is insane. You can get intakes, downpipes, exhaust, carbon bits, carbon aero, coilovers, wheels, diffusers, splitters. The options are honestly endless. Earlier when we were inside the car, I mentioned that the M2 suspension is much better than the M235. And that doesn't just consist of control arms and struts. It also goes as far as the front and rear subframe and the steering rack, which means the handling is that much better. Now, earlier I did mention how great these cars sound, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this one up and rev it for you guys. One thing that is definitely normally neglected in sports cars, especially coupes, is rear trunk space. The M2 actually has a decent sized trunk. You could fit a good bit of things around here. And if I'm being honest, I used to own an F30. I'm almost certain this trunk size is the same as the F30 was. Now, one of the last points I'd like to touch on is reliability. No matter what the price is on a car, no matter what it is, we always want a car that can consistently get us from point A to point B safely. Like, let's be real, nobody wants a car that's gonna leave us stranded on the side of the road. And I know what you're thinking, aren't you guys a shop? Why is this car here? This car's actually here to get absolutely no work done to it. It's here because one of our customers wants to store it in our showroom. We actually have a showroom here at North Raleigh Performance where we park some of our customer cars and customers who want to store their race cars or builds or whatever you want to call it. And what we do, we just keep it in our nice temperature controlled showroom. Obviously our desks are in there and we walk in through there all the time. Our waiting room is in there as well, but it's really cool to see cars in there. So we do tend to keep some really nice cars inside. And whenever a customer wants it stored, we try to do our best to work around that because we always have Eric's car in there as well, or Max's or whoever's. But back to what I was talking about, reliability. The N55 engine is plenty reliable. As long as you take care of the oil filter housing gasket and you don't have oil leaking onto the belt, which will then have the belt get sucked in by the front crank seal, you should be fine. Now you hear horror stories of every car, every engine. Some people even talk about how rod bearings go bad on these motors. It's definitely a concern and I have seen it. Now working in a shop, obviously we see the cars that are problematic more, not the cars that are just fine. But it is something to think about, and also a huge note, no matter what the car is, you should pay attention to a service history and how the owner took care of it and things of that nature, because that will really tell you a lot about the car, because then you can go safely and with a clear mind into buying one. So to conclude, do I think this car is probably one of the best cars you can get for under 40K? I'm more of an older BMW guy. I like the older M cars. Now, if you want something reliable, you want something modern with good technology, good creature comforts, like I mentioned earlier in the video, something that has good power, like this car does, good power to weight ratio, really good handling, tons of aftermarket support, and overall, just such a beautiful, pretty car. I think the M2 is definitely up there. I think for 40K, it is a bargain. I think it's a great car to get. Whether if you get it in a DCT or a manual, still a fantastic car. I also want to mention how practical it is. When I showed you guys the trunk space and the rear seating area, it's not the most practical car in the world, but at least it still has some kind of practicality which you could live with. The real question is though, now with the G87 out, are these going to go down in value or are they going to go up? And should you buy one now or should you wait for them to crash? But anyway guys, let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know down below in the comment section, but leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.